Hi ladies, so I want to go through the nitrogen and carbon cycles with you. Carbon cycle you're a little bit familiar with before, because you would have done a little bit of it maybe in the junior cycle or else in your geography, okay, because it's related to global warming. Nitrogen cycle will probably be new to you. Okay, so girls, you need to understand the terms nutrient recycling, okay, why it's important. Know the steps of the carbon cycle, know the steps of the nitrogen cycle. It's kind of strange to think about it, but inside us there's atoms of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and sulfur. Some of those atoms would have been in living organisms prior to us. So when, for example, an animal dies out in a field, okay, like a cow, okay, it'll die, bacteria and fungi will come along and will break it down and will release the atoms that it's made of into the soil. So it's carbon, hydrogen, oxygen atoms. We'll release those into the soil. Those atoms are then taken up by plants, which are then eaten by another organism, which then use those atoms then to build up its own tissues. So we are made up of recycled materials. Now this is the carbon cycle here, girls, okay? And it's all about the recycling of carbon from the atmosphere into the earth, okay? So we start off with carbon dioxide in the air. Carbon dioxide is taken out of the air by a process called photosynthesis, so we know that already, okay? And then plants then can be eaten by organisms such as animals, and then those animals then release carbon dioxide by respiration. Now plants also release carbon dioxide by respiration, and carbon dioxide can be released by cars and by industries by burning of fossil fuels, and that's one of the big things that we talk about when we're talking about global warming. Also, the other way that carbon dioxide can be taken out of the atmosphere is by absorption into water, such as the seas, lakes and rivers. Now the way to summarise this, girls, are the following. So the way carbon dioxide gets into the air is by respiration of plants and animals, decaying of all organisms, again plants and animals, and combustion of fossil fuels or wood-based materials. The way carbon dioxide leaves the air, girls, it's absorbed into the seas and it can be taken up by photosynthesizing plants. Now, global warming. So that green line you're looking at, girls, that goes up and down quite a lot, is our average temperature, global temperature, whereas the blue line is the amount of carbon dioxide emissions. So we can see the level. That blue line is quite a flat line, but it is going up over time. And at the moment, we've got carbon dioxide levels being released that are, have never been seen in history. If you look at that green line, its overall trend is that it's going up. Okay, now it does go up and down quite a lot for a good reason, because we have what's called seasonality. We've got summers and winters. So obviously during summer it's going to be hotter, during winter it's going to be cooler. But overall the trends are going up. And we as scientists link those two things together. We think that the increase in global temperatures is due to our carbon dioxide emissions. Now this is worrying because we think it's causing a process called climate change. So by changing the global temperatures, we are seeing a melting of the ice caps, which is obviously a loss of habitat for certain animals, but also is causing an increase in water levels. We also see kind of uncharacteristic weather events, such as really extreme storms during times of the year which you wouldn't usually see them, and also see things like tornadoes in areas that we wouldn't historically see them either. So they are obviously very worrying. We are linking those two things together, our increase in global temperatures with climate change. Now the nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen is a really important atom. It's found in DNA and protein. And we as animals and plants can't take that up from the nitrogen that's present in the air because it's too unreactive, okay? So even though 78% of the air that surrounds us is nitrogen, we can't take it up in that way, so we have to have another way of taking it up. So plants can take it up in the two following forms. The compound nitrates, okay, which is a nitrogen oxygen based compound, and nitrites, which is another nitrogen oxygen based compound, okay? So we have to have certain ways of getting nitrogen from the air into the soil in these two forms. Now, so when plants take these up, they turn them into or convert them or assimilate them into DNA and protein, and then we can come along and eat the plant, and then we assimilate those nitrogen based compounds into our protein, into our DNA. Now the first way that nitrates and nitrites can get into the soil is by volcanic activity or lightning. Those extreme high energy events can convert nitrogen gas into nitrates and nitrites, which can then fall into the soil and then be taken in by plants. Then the second way that nitrates and nitrites can enter the soil, girls, is by a really important type of bacteria called nitrogen fixing bacteria. These bacteria live in the roots of legume based plants, beans, beans, peas and peanuts, okay? And they're really, really important bacteria because they increase the quality of the soil. Now, the relationship between these bacteria and the plants are what's called a symbiotic relationship because both benefit from it. The bacteria are given somewhere to live, whereas the plants are given those really important nutrients, nitrates and nitrites. Another way that that nitrogen-based compounds enter the soil, girls, is by decay. So when things die, they're broken down by bacteria and fungi to release ammonia. Now, ammonia is a really strong-smelling compound that you may be familiar with when you walk by public toilets and stuff like that, because it also, we produce urea in our urine, and which is also broken down by bacteria into ammonia. So it's quite a strong-smelling compound. Now, ammonia itself is not very useful to plants, but it can be broken down by nitrifying bacteria. There's another type of really important bacteria that you find in the soil. Finally, there's one bad type of bacteria that you need to know, which are called denitrifying bacteria. They convert useful nitrates and nitrites back into nitrogen gas, so therefore reducing the quality of the soil. These generally live in swampy areas. So girls, here's an image of the nitrogen-based cycle, the nitrogen cycle. So it does look kind of complicated, looks kind of frightening, but please don't be worried about it or nervous about it. The way to summarize it is the following. The ways the nitrates and nitrites get into the soil is by nitrogen-fixing bacteria, nitrifying bacteria, and lightning. The ways nitrates and nitrites leave the soil are denitrifying bacteria. Okay, so hopefully that's useful. Now, humans do have an impact on the nitrogen cycle too, because we tend to add nitrates and nitrites to the soil to try and improve crop yields as farmers, okay? But this can lead to pollution issues because they can flow into waterways, which can cause eutrophication. So girls, that is the carbon and nitrogen cycle. So I'll give you a few questions that relate to this a little bit later in the week.